Okay, we're going to be working with exponents the next couple lessons, and this is Algebra 6-1, and we're talking about to simplify exponents using multiplication properties, and we're going to look at what we call the product and the power rule. So there's two different rules here that we're going to be explaining. So first of all, when we're working with exponents, we got to figure out what does the exponent do. So we have exponent information, important information about this. If a number or variable has an exponent with the number is the base. So it's all about the base. Anyway, so 4 squared, the 4 is the base, and if it's x, is that cubed? No, to the 5th, the x is the base. So whenever you have a number written like this, 4 squared, that is just a shorter way to write 4 times 4. So the base is the number or the variable that you're multiplying over and over again. This x to the 5th means x times x times x times x times x. One, it's a much faster way to write a repeated multiplication, and that's what that is. It's repeated multiplication. It's faster and it has less errors. So if we want to talk about exponential form means you have a base, so like 2, and I'm just making this up, and 4. So you have a base and you have an exponent. So if it ever talks about exponential form, you're going to have a base and you're going to have an exponent. So this means 2 times itself 4 times. Okay. Now, so what does the exponent mean? We talked about that. We talked about the base and that the exponent is 3. That's 3 times. Now, standard form, 2 to the 4th, if we wrote this out and solved it out, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, well, 2 times 2 is 4. That's 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Standard form means you just have a standard number. Okay. Now, what happens if you don't see an exponent? If it's just a whole number by itself or a variable by itself, there's automatically a 1 as an exponent. Just like it had a denominator of 1, it also has an exponent of 1. If it's not there at least once, it wouldn't be there at all. So when you have a number before a variable, that's the coefficient. We talked about this before, and it has an exponent of 1. So 4 is the coefficient. So 4x, that means 4 to the first power times x to the first power. Each of those have an exponent of 1, but we don't write that because it's automatically there. It's a given, or it wouldn't be there at all. So let's talk about when we start multiplying. If we have x to the a power and x to the b, which a can be any number, b can be any number. And so when we multiply these, you're going to actually add the exponents, okay? So you're going to add the exponents. So here's how this is going to happen. Oh, and you probably want to get your calculator ready. I'm going to show you a button on your calculator that's going to come in handy. So I'm going to put that to the side. So in this case, when you have the coefficients, so the coefficients, well, the coefficients here are 1. So let's do this example 1, numerical basis. So you have 4 to the 3rd power times 4 to the 4th power. That means you have 3 fours, 3 times, and you have 4 4s here. So if we wanted to make this shorter, we have 4, the base of 4, okay? So you have 7th power, which means, now, I don't want you to have to sit there and multiply 4 times 7. It's not 4 times 7. This is not 28. So 4 times 7, or 4 to the 7th power is not 28. What it's saying 4 times itself 7 times. Well, you can do 4 times 4 times 4 7 times, or you could use this key. Now, what you want to find is, on this calculator, I'm trying to find where it is. Oh, right here. I couldn't find it. I don't know why I couldn't find it. It's right there. So you want to find on your calculator either this y to the x. Sometimes they have x to the y. So which means you can do 4, hit the y, x, 7 equals. So now why does that say negative? I don't know why that says negative. Did I have a negative in there or something? 4. Okay, because that should not be negative. I didn't know what was going on there, and that was a really large number. So this is going to be 16,300 if they want it to simplify out. 16,384. Okay. So example 2, variable basis. m to the fifth times m to the second. Well, you keep the m's. 5 plus 2 will be 7. So m to the 7th. Now, there's nothing you can do there. You don't know what m equals. So leave it m to the 7th. Now, when you have a variable with a coefficient, meaning you have 4y cubed times 5 cubed here, right? Here's where over here I'm going to write this in. You want to multiply the coefficients, and then add the exponents for the like bases. And the bases must be the same. So in this case, we have y cubed and 5 cubed. Okay, so they don't have a y here. But we can multiply these as 4 times 5 and make it 20. Now, be careful here. This cubed is only attaching to the y. It's not attaching to the 4. Okay, so you're going to have, oh, you know what? I should have a y here. This should, I don't know what happened. I really should have a y here because I wanted to do y cubed and y. So write this in yours, right? Let's make this y cubed. So we're going to do, this should be 5y cubed. Hold on, back up. Because that shouldn't be 5 cubed. 5y cubed. So we're going to have 20 and then y cubed. Well, you have y cubed times y cubed, which is going to be 20y to the 6th. Okay, so this should be 5y cubed. Sorry about that. I don't know why it did not transfer. Who knows? Okay, so we're going to do more practice with this, but now we're going to talk about the power rule. When we have power of a power, we have x to the a power times x to the b power. Now, these are different exponents. So you have x to the a power, or ab. Power of a product means if these are together and you have this a here. So if you have numbers inside that you're multiplying, raising to the a power, then this is going to distribute. It's like distributing to each of these terms inside. So when you have power of a product, when you are raising a power to a power, you want to multiply the exponents of the variable inside the parentheses and with the exponent on the outside the parentheses. So for example, if you have 3 to the 4th here, this means you have 3 4 times, but then you have 2 sets of these. That's what that's meaning. So you have 3 to the 4th risen to the 2nd power, so you have power of a power, and notice you're going to have 3 to the 8th power. And that's just like saying 3 4 times 2. Not 4 plus 2, because when you have power of a power like this, you're going to multiply the exponents. Okay. Now, the coefficients. Same here. Oh, I'll wait on the coefficients. But same here, variable basis, same thing. You have 6 x's, x times itself 6 times, but 2 sets of those. So you have x to the 12th. If it's power of a power, you multiply. Okay, now, when you have this, when you have variables with a coefficient, be very careful. This is what people mess up. This is like a 3 to the 1st power. So you're really saying 3 cubed, this 1 times 3, a squared times cubed, that's going to be a times 6. Now, when you have a mix of variable and constant, or in a coefficient like this, don't leave it like this. They will make you go ahead and simplify it out, which 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3. So that's saying 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. So this is the one time you don't leave it when you have a mix of variable and numerical bases. Go ahead and simplify out 3 cubed, which is 27. Okay. Now, when we're looking over here on these notes, I'm just bringing my notes down just a little bit just to make sure I'm writing everything correctly. So coefficients to the power. So you're going to raise coefficients to the power of the exponent on the outside the parentheses, which is I was just explaining that here. Okay. Now when this happens, And you have, remember the coefficients always have the exponent of 1. If there's no exponent with it, there's an exponent of 1. Now, you want to rewrite the coefficient in standard form, and that's what we mean by there. Just going to rewrite that in standard form. Okay. All right, so we're going to do some practice. So rewrite, simplify the expressions below. If the variable does not show an exponent, the exponent is 1. So remember that one. So notice you have 2x squared times 3x. And if you want to rewrite this as saying, okay, 2 times 3 times x squared times x, now that's like really saying with an exponent of 1, then you could do 2 times 3 is 6, x squared times x to the first. You add these. Same base, add the exponent. So this is going to be x to the third power, or x cubed. Okay, so we multiplied the coefficients. X squared, now this is with multiplication. Addition and subtraction, you can't do this, but with multiplication, you can. You can just add the exponents. Okay, so check here. We have a, so all the bases are the same. Now, we can add the exponents. 10 plus 2 plus 1. Don't forget that. So it's going to be a to the 13th. Okay. Here we have negative 4y to the 7th times 6y to the 4th. Multiply the coefficients, so that's going to be a negative 24. And y, 7 plus 4 is 11. Okay. So now here, be careful here. This is saying, this is really like a negative 1 times 5. This is just another way to say multiplication. It's just the two parentheses. It's just saying the multiplication. We're not taking power of a power. So we're just saying negative x cubed y times 5x y to the 4th. So we have negative 1 times 5 is a negative 5. X cubed times x, it's going to be x to the 4th. Y times y to the 4th, y to the 5th. Okay. All right. So looking down, let's keep going. Negative 2 times negative 5, positive 10. 6, m to the 6th, m to the 4th, m to the 10th. N, now that's n to the 1st and n to the 1st. So that's n to the 2nd. P to the 1st, p to the 5th, p to the 6th. So you got to do each one individually, each letter individually. And notice these are all multiplication. Okay, so this is working with multiplication. Now we get into power of a power. So now you have c squared risen to the 8th power. So that's going to be c to the 16th. Multiply those two. Okay, now we're doing power of a power. So this is going to say, you're going to multiply. This is x to the 1st. So 1 times 4, that's going to be x to the 4th. Y squared to the 4th, multiply y to the 8th. And z, 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, so power of a power, multiply. Okay, now be careful here. You're saying negative 4 squared in e to the 6th. Now we have a mix. We have numerical bases and variable bases. Numerical bases, finish this off, okay? So what I would do is make sure you have a negative 4 squared in parentheses, because that's going to make it a positive 16. If you have this, you're really saying a negative 16. So, but you're squaring the whole negative 4. So that's going to be a positive 16. Okay, now this one, you're saying negative 3 cubed. C to the 6th. Nope, multiply. 9. D to the 15th. Now, negative 3 cubed. You're saying negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. So that's going to be a negative because you have 3 negatives. And 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27. So you have a negative 27. Z to the 9th. D to the 15th. All right. This one. We have 1/2. I just got to watch my time. I have 30 seconds left in this video, and then I'll make a second one for this one. But 1/2 cubed, a to the 9th, b cubed, c to the 15th. Now, 1/2 cubed. That means 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2, which is going to be 1/8. So you could write it this way. 1/8, a to the 9th, b cubed, or b15. Or, oh, it's going to stop. A9, B3, B15 over 8. You could do that. Okay, I got to make a second video.